So we're into the application dispatcher. So it's dispatching another application request inside it. Remember, it forwarded the request internal to Tomcat, right? The virtual filter chain, this once per request filter, it's already applied these, so it skips it. And we get into HTTP servlet, then we get into a framework servlet, which processes the response, dispatch servlet, which all it does is set some of these attributes, some of these wrap the requests so they're consistent. And then we're into this Grails dispatch server. And this is where the magic happens. This is where all the fun stuff starts to come together. This is the belly of the beast. This is where the application actually gets processed. So it's this big long method that handles locale, that wraps the original response, handles exceptions, figures out if it's processed this response or if it's closed. Then we have this interceptors. This is the Grails filter. So if you've got a filter that would use object level security, right? So you say if somebody's trying to request this protected access, and you can dive into the database and see they're not connected to that, user ID or account or whatever, you could reject them from filter, right? So it's going to access those filters, and then if it's going to return false, if that filter chain returns false, then it's gonna die, and request is gonna be done there. So after it does the pre-handle, then we actually get into a handler, and then we delegate. It delegates all over the place to a handler adapter, right? So the gist of this is you're going to end up in a controller, right? So it uses a controller handler adapter, a simple controller handler adapter. It's going to actually before we get there, the response. What we get back from this handler adapter is a model in view. So if you're in Spring World, that's what it is. That's all Grails is doing and covers is model in view. Delegates the controller adapter, and then to simple Grails controller. It's going to handle this request. And then somewhere in here, it's going to actually service the request and get a model in view back.
Just a question.
Yeah.
Is Grails, can you configure any other UI frameworks with Grails? And is it this doing because we have configured the UI framework to be Spring MVC, or does Grails by default assume Spring?
Grails is Spring with a little bit of configurable conventions put on top, and Groovy as what you write Grails with. So yeah, I think it's opinionated. It's already picked Spring to service these. It's a Spring MVC framework, basically. And there are ways to plug in and interact with other pieces in Tomcat and interact with that. But yeah, it's Spring. So it's handling the URI, right? And finally, it goes and figures out the view name. It figures out that it sets the controller action. It processes the parameters. So in Grails, there's this params object that all of your incoming request variables get serialized into. So it'll handle this stuff here. And then finally, it'll execute the action, right? It delegates some more. And finally, we get into some Groovy invoking a closure. And we're finally at our, 10-line controller action. This code is pretty simple. This is a controller action. And it's a Groovy closure. That it gets a presentation, uses Gorm to define the presentation by access code. Is that params object that I was talking about? And if there is a presentation and there's a comment, then it creates a new comment with the text of the comment, sets the client IP address, adds the comment to the presentation, and saves the presentation. Sets a flash message, which is just this, it's another scope that exists throughout two requests to the next request. So if you redirect, that's still there in the flash code. And then renders a view. Renders the comment view with this model. So this is going to get serialized into a Spring model and view and piped back up the chain. So let's walk through this guy a little bit. So we're going to get a presentation, and you see we've got a reference. Here's a presentation object that we got from Gorm, which is just like a wrapper over Hibernate, right? So it dynamically found a presentation by the access code, it did all that stuff, and returned to us an actual object that has an event called the main event, a speaker, the day that it was created, title, access code, the actual ID version, and then it's got a list of comments that it hydrated as well. So it's eager fetching, I guess. And then because the presentation was not null, it evaluates to true. So if presentation and there's a comment, so params.comment is valid, then it's going to create a new comment object, right? And this is Groovy right here, so you're setting properties on this comment object. Just a one-liner, set the text to this, and the IP address to that. It's going to add this comment to the presentation. So now the presentation, let's see, had 5 comments, and now it has 6 comments, right? So we've just added that. This hasn't been saved yet to the database. So we're going to do presentation.save, and this is all like Grails, Gorm specific stuff. Save that comment, and it is saved successfully, so it's going to set a flash message, I guess it's just evaluating that, and then render the view. And then we return back up the scope, back up the chain, we handle this request, that map got returned, casted into an actual Spring model and view, back to here, and then invokes the after interceptors, goes back up the chain, to handling the request, model and view, so on and so forth.
Is that a Spring?
The model and view?
Yeah.
That's Spring. That's like raw. That's like core Spring stuff. That's every controller is going to, it's a model view controller. So your controller is going to return the model and view and identify which view you're going to render and the model that gets bound to that view. So all your data and stuff.
Your Grails controller can do like redirects and forwards and all that stuff. So is that just a different model view? Because it looks like it always returns model view.
It does. It'll throw out of that beacon and higher level. Or I'm second guessing myself. It might return a null model in view and then handle that through setting another property.
Yeah, it's not. I mean, I can just
one way, one way or another, it's effectively the same thing. Just different patterns, right? So we're in the application filter chain. It finally comes back to where's that page filter in this huge stack trace. Grails page filter. Sweet. There we are. So we go back into this. We've gone through the actual controller at Grails. We saw using the Gorm, which uses Hibernate, which is persisting to a database, and kind of skipped over some of that stuff because it's a little bit long. We've done all that stuff. We've done our action. It's returned a model in view, and now we're going back to the views and layouts. So back to this page filter where it's going to process this stuff.